Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the domain name authority and the place where successful domainers come to tell their stories, tell you how they built their portfolio, motivate you, and give you ideas so that you can go build your own portfolio so that hopefully you can do what today's guest is doing, which is an interview where you teach others to do the same. How do you build a company that regularly exceeds $4 million per year in domain name sales and services with a client list including Lumber Liquidators, Priceline, and Expedia.com? Joining me today to answer this question is Justin Godfrey. In this interview, we'll find out how he built his business, Domain Investment Services. So welcome, Justin, and thanks for doing the interview.
Welcome. Thank you.
I'm going to start off with a short little story, Justin, about how you and I recently met. A few weeks ago, I was doing this exact same type of interview with Andrew Allman of Domain Name Wire. I threw out a scenario and I asked Andrew to give me some feedback on this scenario, and I used an example of michaelseiger.com. I've never used michaelseiger.com. I tried to reserve Seiger.com years ago, and I found that some technology company had reserved it, which boggled my mind because when my parents came to the United States, they changed their name from a German, this sort of long German name into Seiger, which is nice and short, which is like cyber, but with a G. And so I couldn't get Seiger.com, so I got Seiger.org. We use that for our family email address. And I thought, well, Andrew, I joked around, I better reserve michaelseiger.com because if I don't, I know somebody watching this interview is going to nab it, and then who knows what they're going to do with it. So in preparing Andrew's interview to go live, I've got the transcript, I've got the video. I remembered, I got to go reserve the domain name. So I go over to my registrar, I type in the michaelseiger.com. Lo and behold, it was reserved. I couldn't believe it. I did a whois and I found that it was reserved the week prior to me going out and doing it. And guess whose name came up on the whois? Yours. Exactly, Justin. So I called Justin and I asked him why he reserved my domain name. And so, Justin, let me turn it over to you. Why did you reserve michaelseiger.com as domain name?
Well, if I can remember correctly, I was actually renewing probably 50 names. Normally when I renew names, I'll just kind of, register names that I want at the same time. I just happened to read on thedomains.com with Mike Perkins that an interview with you, I think that was a blog that I seen it on. And, I had happened to type in your name and it was open. And I think how it kind of came about was at Dynadot, once I had run the name and I had added to my cart, once I renewed all the names, that one was in with it, which I did realize afterwards, but I figured I'd hang on to it. I forwarded it to your website. And how that kind of came about was, I've registered a few other domainers' names over the years. Some of them wanted them, some of them didn't. After more people than not didn't want them, I just basically stopped contacting people and let them contact me if they wanted it. And like I said, how that came about was somebody had owned my name, justingodfrey.com, and that was a guy's name was actually Justin Godfrey. I reached out to him. He said I could have it for basically free. Then he never contacted me again, and lo and behold, it had dropped. And somebody on DM forum, some of the old timers on there might remember Domain Newbie, I think was their name. They had some sort of grudge against me, registered the name, forwarded to some MySpace profile, some pot smoking guy. And I had actually offered them like $3,000 or $5,000 for the name. There was a time where I kind of wanted to brand the name, but
yeah.
I kind of moved past that and basically just waited them out. I offered them $3,000. They declined. And this was just somebody that really hard to communicate with, through email. Like I said, they just had some sort of grudge. I had made a comment at one time about their names, them trying to sell these junk names or something. So that's what the price I paid. And then I had got an email from somebody saying that it was about to drop. So I went ahead and just back ordered it. And then just registered all the other TLDs, along with it. So
right.
Just to kind of clear up any future Obviously in business, I mean, you make enemies, so that's just something that goes with territory. But this person, like I said, just had a grudge, and I think they registered it back in 2008, if I can remember, and they had it up until probably early last year. I think is when I finally took control of it. But that's kind of where it comes from. Like I said, I've registered a few other names a couple of years ago, a couple of domainers' names, and like I said, just give them the names they
Sure.
prefer to use it. Some people just don't want it, so.
And to your credit, I reached out to you. We traded emails. You had offered to push the domain back over to me immediately at no cost. You were a true gentleman about it. I appreciate that. In fact, you asked, but you didn't require that if I was interested, I could make a donation for the domain amount to your charity called projectnightnight.org. Can you tell me about the organization and why you ask for donations for it?
Actually, that's not my organization. It's just a charity that I've found over the years that deals with kids, located in the U.S. I know that anytime a tragedy type thing happens, in other countries, everybody, rushes over there, which is completely fine. I more like to deal with, children or homeless families in the U.S. So this organization, I've spoken to them multiple times, and anytime something comes up where, depending on the amount or, what, in this case, I'll just direct them to this charity, and what they'll basically do is if you go to their website and like you did, clicked on make a donation in somebody's name, they make that donation, and they basically send me a card or my daughter a card saying that you had actually made a donation. I mean, they don't put the amount or anything, but they just let me know that you made a donation. So, maybe a quarter of the people that I kind of direct there actually do it. So, I appreciate that.
Well, it's a nice sentiment to bring charity into it, and I appreciated that, and I appreciate you being a gentleman and pushing the domain back over to me. So let's talk about your business. You say on your website that your company regularly, and this is a quote, regularly exceeds $4 million in domain name sales and services per year. Many times websites, they get set up, they become outdated, the stuff that you read there isn't even true anymore. Are you still hitting in the mid seven figures for revenue of your company?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Basically, in this business, I found over the years that you just really have to diversify what you're doing. I mean, there was a time where I started, just selling, lower end names, moving up over the years, to do, consultation for companies, companies will fly me out to New York or LA, almost to be, maybe a domain manager, or to be a broker on their behalf. A lot of companies will do that where you don't want to know that Lumber Liquidators is buying, let's say floorfinder.com. I think is one that I bought for them, because obviously the price is going to go up tenfold. So I do a lot of consultation work, do a lot of domain management, brokerage services for companies like that. Also broker. That's more of a through my newsletter, but I kind of find that's more passive, brokering names, everyday names. I broker names to end users where I won't list them in my newsletter because I know that nobody's going to buy it for $2 million or $1 million. But a lot of my stuff just goes unreported because I found over the years that a lot of my buyers like to keep, their privacy. They don't want their names splashed all over DN Journal, which there was a time where that would be beneficial to me just to get my subscriber database up. But
right.
I found that even if I have less numbers than, say, Rick Latona, I just want the more quality buyer. I want somebody that's going to, either want to sell through me, either to buy through me. I don't want 2,000 people that might not even read the newsletter. So, but in terms of reporting and stuff, I'm very, very few names that I sell, unless it's a good end user sale, or like with free.info. That was a couple of years back, during the whole .info boom, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
I reported that just because it helped the extension. But
Right.
if I were to report all my sales, I mean, it would be all over the end journal. I just don't. I'd rather stay more private than.
Yeah. Okay, I want to come back and ask you some more questions about your company and how you diversify your revenue stream and why you report certain things. But I want to come back to that. First, I want to go back in time. I want to learn how you got to this point where you have these customers, where you have the recurring revenue, where you have these services. So tell me first, when and how did you first discover domain names?
Well, let's see. Maybe late '90s, I had started to get into domaining. Um, I was, let's see, maybe 18, 19. I think that's when I registered my first name. It was a .org. I've always had kind of a entrepreneur bug in me. I mean, looking back on it, where I've kind of wanted to always make my own money, but I've always worked for somebody else for the most part. Um, but I had registered my first domain name. Uh, on and off, I had registered names. Didn't really see, the platform that I could have had, like most people, like Rick Schwartz or something. Obviously, seen it. He was old enough and wise enough to know. But me, I didn't really know. I didn't see the potential in it. I could be a lot wealthier today if I had, but I mean, everything that I went through in my life has made me who I am. So I started, like I said, late '90s, and then I didn't really do much. Maybe early 2000s, I had registered or bought a lot of names with other people that were in the game at the time, just in like a pool of money. It was kind of like a domain fund, I guess you could say,
Mm-hmm.
where those names really weren't touched until 2004-ish, around there, 2005. And that's kind of when just one day, I was in the military, in the Air Force active duty, really struggling to get by. I mean, even before I joined the military, it was living in low-income housing, just a really dreadful situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 2004, 2005 is when I kind of started to get back into it. And basically then what I did was I just registered domain names. I mean, and the way that I came about it, I think I heard something on the news or something kind of just triggered in my mind that I had done it before, but I still didn't really see the true potential in it. So basically kind of progressing through there, started really low level, registering domain names or, taking hours and hours and hours and hours, finding a good name that I could register, and then I would sell it for maybe $100, $200 or something like that. So a profit. And and that basically just snowballed up until, buying names like aftermarket.com. So it was just a real gradual, step by step. And when I was in the military until 2007, I really didn't have the time to put as much time into it as I needed to make it, a successful business.
Right.